welcome back. So let's start. So keep joining your seats. So welcome to Anne and Jonathan. So Anne Massardier from PwC, Jonathan Prince from Finologe. So maybe a short introduction of who you are and your role in the company. Anne, let's start with you.
Yeah, so nice to see you all. I'm Anne Massardier, I'm director in the finance transformation team, and I'm covering corporate treasurer for now 20 years, before in banking and then now from an advisory perspective.
With you, Jonathan.
Yeah, unlike PwC, I need to introduce Finologe first. So we're a fintech, regtech company based in Luxembourg. We operate under a PFS license, and we provide various sets of platforms around KYC. That's a topic that we've been addressing quite a lot today, and banking orchestrator that helps financial institutions and corporate connect to the various banks they engage with, and to optimize through dashboards all the payment initiation, but also bank data retrieval. And myself, one of the co-founders, I'm more specifically in charge of the sales and partnerships aspects.
Yeah, you have a partnership with PwC. Maybe let's start. So the title is ATEL Cash Optimization. So.
Yeah, indeed. So maybe just to explain a bit, so we have decided with Jonathan indeed to talk about this cash optimization topic. And I have to say at the moment we had doubt saying, okay, maybe it's not innovative enough or attractive enough for the discussion today, because it's not a very new topic, I guess, for any of you. But when I look at today's discussion and when I hear the previous presentation, I think that there is a real common concern about what I'm doing with my cash, what are the new allocation, and where can I indeed invest. So talking about token, talking about coins, etc., and we will have also the next presentation. I think it's really important for the European treasurer now to think about the way they will more and more invest their cash. And when you look at the US, which are much more, I would say, active, and the recent IPO in America, I think it's very important that we all keep this concern and improve the way we are managing, investing, and of course, being able indeed to optimize the cash allocation. So it's a really up-to-date topic, I think. So additionally to this to this topic of the day, I would say that in general, of course, you all know that in terms of context, the question of the cash allocation is indeed driven by the economical attractiveness. So indeed, where am I investing my cash? Where am I missing opportunities? But not only, and this is also something that we are more and more discussing with our clients. So we know that corporates have been a bit protected from the regulatory pressure, and that for many years, indeed, the question of the cash allocation was only driven by financial concern. However, more and more with the PSD3, T+1, the settlement, etc., it's not anymore only about gaining returns on the cash, but it's also how to remain compliant, to remain in control for the treasurer. And it's really changing in terms of dimension into the risk and the challenge which is given to the treasurer to make sure that the control, the oversight they have on their cash, which is very often fragmented between the different central, the local entities, etc., always remain in control from the treasurer. So indeed, we have this PSD3 also upcoming regulation, and it can only add, I would say, a requirement for treasurers to be equipped and be able to always have visibility on the cash at any time in a much more active way. How to get there? Because it's very easy to say, indeed, you should have access, you should always be in control, you should have consolidated visualization of your cash balances, always being able to access what's your balances on your account, to have forecast visibility on the upcoming in and outflows, etc. So there are two pillars, and that's why we also wanted to have this common approach, is that we can't have a siloed approach. you need to have aligned both operational and technical equipments. Operational, this is where indeed with PwC we historically can support you with all the data reflection that is even out of Treasury. It's more transversal with finance, even with business. So building data layers, data stage, data lakes, etc. The governance and policy, so not in the idea just to document. You know that at Big Four we love indeed to have the documentation, but that's not only for that. It's so because you need to give people the guidance to know the box in which they can play. So for you,
strategies.
Exact. So that's very important that it starts with that, and of course the processes and models, because having visibility on cash at a specific moment is much different than being able to know what is going to flow out tomorrow or in the next 10 days. And traceability of the data, and when I say the data, the cash, so where is my euro coming from, to which transaction is it belonging to, and it means that can I project also the behavior of my cash and know what will need to flow out. This is really key for treasurer. And of course the technical readiness, we will discuss later more in detail with Jonathan, but to make sure that indeed all my systems are well integrated, that it be with ERP, TMS, that my data is secured, and that I have an accurate view on my cash. Maybe, so just as a transition to let Jonathan present a bit the Finologe solution, which is BKO. Why do we have this, indeed, this partnership? Is because, as we say, so we know that the challenge of the treasurer are the connection with the external world, the interfacing internally, so get rid, of course, of Excel, I think is all a goal we have, but more connection, most direct data flows between my ERPs and even any other system into the organization are key. Security of the data, that we all are concerned, as I mentioned, not only for the regulated world, but also for the corporate now, and the integration with all my value chain, so being able to onboard and have, for example, KYC capabilities. So we have really identified that the BKO solution is very complete, and I will let Jonathan explain more.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anne. Anne has explained why idle cash matters and what organizations need to put in place. I will focus more on the practicalities and how you can actually have a clear visibility on where the cash sits and how you can actually operate some cash concentration and go beyond that. So before you can optimize cash, you need to know exactly where it sits and to be able to act on it. So I think the most important aspect, as Anne was mentioning, is to be able to connect easily to various banks, and including those that are wonderfully hosting wonderful events. So it's among the banks that you should be connected, obviously.
All of them.
So this requires indeed to have a clear focus on how you want to do that, how you want to manage that. Phoebe was mentioning also for HSBC the connectivity using leveraging SWIFT. That's a decision we took some years ago indeed, to leverage SWIFT connectivity, not limited to, but we also have the approach where our clients, being corporates that don't want to go for their own SWIFT stack, can piggyback on our big code and indeed have easy access to this network. There's among the most extensive network, and allows you to connect easily to different accounts. So that's one aspect, but you mentioned also the onboarding and the risk management part. This is obviously something that is critical in this area. So we operate with also the licenses because it's a requirement, I believe, in this industry. We're talking about cash, and cash is a very sensitive topic and matter indeed. So that's one aspect, but it's also facilitating the connectivity to the different tools on which the clients are operating. So TMS services, ERPs, and so on. So this layer, intermediate layer between the world of banks and the world of the tools on which the corporates are operating is, I believe, a very important aspect.
So what's make you different from some competitors? So you are regulated, you are a PSP, and so regulated by CSSF.
Correct.
And so it's why you can act on behalf of your customers.
That's
and
the
use your
reason.
Bitcoin.
Indeed, that's the reason why we're considered as a supervised entity by SWIFT, and we're able to have our own Bitcode and leverage this Bitcode to access the different banks. So currently we're connected to a bit more than 150 banks, which is quite some work in terms of management also on a daily basis, but it gives us a reach which is important for our clients. So that is really, once you've got the visibility and the connectivity, the second aspect is not so much about the process, which idle cash is not so much about the process. It's more an investment problem. So where do you have your cash sitting, and how do you actually manage the movements, the transfers from one account to the other? So there are, from what we saw and discussing it also with Anne and the advisory firms, there are basically three different maturity levels. The manual level, where I think quite a few treasurers, and you can obviously relate to that, are still doing manually the movements from cash accounts, so identifying if they've got excess cash sitting on the accounts and then doing the transfer manually. There's a second level, which is rule-based movements, where you can automate, partially automate, but it's execution, purely execution of something that you've set, rules that you've set. And then the third one is continuous optimization. So it goes a bit further. It's obviously also automation, but here you constantly concentrate the cash. So you define the rules, which is something that you define a strategy. You were mentioning it, and then that gives more time to the Treasury Department to focus on their strategy. You remove some of the operational burdens. I think that's important.
And indeed, I think this is the goal we share, is that 80% we see of the day of the treasurer are spent to concentrate, reconcile, and gather, collect the data, so that at the end, maybe 30 minutes between the cutoff, you have an accurate view and you can replace. Well, we really would like to balance this 80-20 to the opposite. So 20% maximum of the time spent to that, for 80% time having strategic decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also I think, a key element to reinforce the governance, because you give more time to the Treasury teams to actually focus on some basic principles in terms of risk management, which is 4 I's principle, the audit trail, which has to be present. Any action you take in the platform has to be tracked and is fully auditable, and also ability to pause and resume some basic rules. I think that's important, because you can't just say, I put that in place, it's going on forever. You need to be able to pause and resume when it's relevant. So I'll just try and stick to the timing there, because I can be very chatty. What we've put in place in terms of functionalities in the platform, the cash concentration, that's the first layer, is across multiple banks, first of all. So that gives a lot of flexibility to our corporate clients that are working with several banks, so they can define rules, 4 I's principle, that apply when signing a cash concentration. And again, they can watch them run, the rules, so they're clearly more in the controlling pilots in the activity rather than putting the fuel in the pump, basically. So here, this is indeed something that is a key element that was required by the corporates we built this solution with. We always act in co-creation mode, so that is also very important. That when we built these features, it was based on the requirements of clients that define the rules, define what they wanted, and together with the team at PwC, they were guiding that, and that's very important. It's a key aspect of it.
Could you imagine to sweep several times a day, because with no payment for merchant?
So you define the frequency as you wish. So it could be even several times a day. It could be daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. You define the thresholds, also the upper limit, the balance target, the target balance. You define all that directly in the tool, and then again you control as a treasurer. You control what is happening. Yeah, so I think also that concentration is not the destination, it's the prerequisite. So once you've consolidated and concentrated all the cash into accounts, the next step is obviously to be able to reinvest. And here again, we're not providing some specific vehicles to do the reinvestment. We're more in a partnership mode where we...
You connect to
you
platforms?
Connect, indeed. We give the option to our clients to also set up their own agreements with financial institutions, banks that can help them reinvest on money market funds. That was mentioned in one of the previous...
tokenized deposits?
Tokenized deposits and so on. But this is clearly, the goal is to provide the tool, and to enable to actually define the strategy or the strategies. There are several ones. So that's also something we've been working quite thoroughly with the team, because they're advocating for Treasury as a service. So they've been very helpful and incremental in setting up these kind of services and features in the tool.
So you're not targeting only corporates, it could be other industries, especially in Luxembourg. And in terms of size, so there is no minimum size. So as soon as you have cross-border activities, multi-bank activities, so it becomes interesting to...
Yes, I think this is an important aspect that nowadays we see even in Luxembourg, small corporates are already doing cross-border payments, because if you're serving clients in Luxembourg, they would have some accounts in the surrounding or neighboring countries. So looking at a solution that would be limited to the banks in Luxembourg would miss the target here. So obviously we're serving a lot of financial institutions, central admins that are serving, a lot of funds that are global. So the corporates are also very often in Luxembourg global, operating globally. So indeed, being able to connect to any bank is key, and being able to set these rules with any of these banks is a key ingredient.
Maybe a question for both, but what could be the advantage of using your license to use your big code? Because you say, okay, first we can use Swift without being a Swift, let's say, or having our own big code. So it means that in terms of customer security program cost, it could reduce the cost. And what are the benefits of using this quite unique solution?
That's pretty obvious. So there's this piggybacking effect, so you don't have to bear the weight of having your own
compliance,
compliance. Controls. So it's the mutualization effect of the costs. But not only that, we monitor the connectivity with all the banks. So that's very important also, because our clients benefit from the fact that several clients are using these connections, specific connections to various banks. So when, and it sometimes happen, not very often, but when a connection is down with a bank, we can inform all our clients, which for someone that has only one connection, then you could have a lag before you can actually see that the connection is down.
And the connection or connectivity is fully outsourced to your team. So for the corporate, because it's a big question, so if you use systems that are able to connect, you need to, let's say, be an actor to make sure that you have some tests to find the right person, to test the format, etc. So here it's fully...
We usually say that we're doing plumbing. Right, so we set up the connections,
but we outsource the plumbing to the plumber, and instead of doing it ourselves, because at the end of the day, it's a big issue for some of our members.
Yeah, and first they can use our bitcode. That's one approach. As an alternative, we could use eBix, SFTP, anything that works with the bank. That's clearly something that we're very careful with. We want to make sure that we have a solution that fits both the bank's needs and our clients, the corporates or the financial institutions that are using the platform. But we also want to make sure that they benefit from this mutualization effect. So when some banks are seeing some additional options to be provided, they can do it through us. So we've set up some agreements with banks where you can activate an account directly through the platform, which is a huge benefit. So you gain some time also, operational gain of time when setting up the solution with the various accounts. We're looking at, obviously, fast account opening is one thing, but we're looking also at additional services that can be provided. Again, acting as a gateway and utilizing this effort is key. We've been working hand in hand with Swift also to test some of the latest functionalities. I heard tokenization or blockchain on Swift. We've been testing the GPI. We've been testing Swift pre-validation. We've been testing. We're acting as guinea pigs, actually, because we see the value to it.
And on top, you're a Luxembourgish company, so always better to favor the local company. So thanks a lot. I think that unfortunately our time is over, but I'm sure that you have some question for Anne or Jonathan, so do not hesitate to address them, and some of the colleagues are around. So thanks a lot for this insightful information.